Now in 2014, this is a time when Chris Pratt finally gets the opportunity from Marvel to become Peter Quill, aka Starlord, for the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Now this is a point of the story that Marvel owns him in a way. And as with the rest of the actors that they own, they want him fit. So to get ready for the role, Marvel assigns him a nutritionist by the name of Phil Golgia. Hello there. Today we're going to have some fun. We're going to do a celebrity workout review and talk about Chris Pratt and how he goes back and forth between being fit to fat and right back to fit. Or as I like to call it, how he goes from Chris Pratt to Chris Fat and back to his fit version of Chris Pratt. Some of the things Chris Pratt has done in his acting career can really help out everybody and teach some positive things about weight fluctuation since he does this professionally. Also, a lesson on what not to do when trying to lose weight and how it leads to injury because he hurt himself in one of his weight loss attempts. Let me teach you so you can learn from his mistake and you can reduce your chances of hurting yourself, because after doing some research, I found Chris Pratt's diet and workout history to be an interesting one, and it doesn't walk the normal path. So if you pay attention to other people, you can always learn from their mistakes. So I'm going to start this whole workout history by going to Chris Pratt's first appearance in Everwood back in 2002 and work it all the way to his more current roles in Jurassic World and the MCU. So if you're excited to watch this video, what I want you to do right now is firmly press down that like button and also hit subscribe so you don't miss another video that you could learn from and benefit from these celebrity workout reviews. So going back in time to the year 2002, when Chris Pratt was only 23 years old and starred in the show Everwood, there's not much to go on in terms of his training and his workout habits at that time. But if you watch enough of the show, at least with me, I can tell some things about his current physique at that time. Now, this is not a show that I would have watched back in the day, to be honest with you. It's just not a show for me. But I did go through some scenes, and I'll tell you that during this time, Chris Pratt appears to be in modest shape, and he looks like he does work out. At the time, he was 23 years old, and he looks about as fit as your average 23-year-old without the proper workout knowledge or the money for a trainer. Looking at his physique, he probably didn't have a trainer and nutritionist coaching him. By the time he got to the role of Starlord, Marvel assigned him an elite-level personal trainer and nutritionist. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video. From the episodes of Everwood from 2002 to 2006, I will conclude that Chris Pratt appears to have a mesomorphic body type, which would have been an ideal body type to have to allow your body to put on fat and then lose that fat back and forth. I say this because if Chris was an ectomorphic body type, then it would be really hard for him to put on all that weight in a short amount of time. Going into the year 2006 and 2007, Chris stars in the last season of the WB show called The OC. Some of his fans say that he saved this series. There's this one particular scene in this series that we get a good look at his body while he plays the role of Che, and he sings a song for Seth and gives him a hug in his birthday suit. What I can tell about Chris Pratt's physique at this point, he was about 28 years old, and he looks like he's no stranger to the gym. But with the physique he had at this point, he looked like he was inconsistent at going to the gym. The type of build he had looks like he got in a good workout maybe 6 to 7 times a month at best. A little higher frequency would have made a major difference. As you can see from this footage, his arms, traps, and back have some development, but they really haven't begun to hit his fitness potential like he does when he gets older. So we really don't start finding major articles about Chris Pratt and his diet and exercise habits until we get to the year 2010, when he first gets cast as a baseball player in the movie Moneyball. But it wasn't so easy for Chris to get that role. According to an article I found in The Sun, it says that Chris took drastic measures by losing 6 stone after he was initially turned down for the role of Scott Heidelberg in Moneyball because he was too fat for the part. Now 6 stone, for those that don't know, is 84 pounds or 38 kilos. So he was really fat right before he got cast for his role. And it probably means that Chris had a lot of beer and treats in those 3 years since he was in the OC. I say beer and treats because after doing research on Chris, it seems that he personally admits those are his weak points when it comes to resisting fattening foods. In a Huffington Post article about Chris Pratt's weight loss, he says, "My agent called me and said, 'Chris, they really thought you were good, but they think you're too fat,'" Pratt remembered. And then he was like, "Fuck, really? That sucks. Okay, well, I can lose the weight. Did you tell him I can lose the weight?"
Yeah, we told them, and they haven't offered the role to anybody else, Chris, but there's no guarantee, but... And it was another 3 months before he found out he got the role. And Chris thinks that in that 3 months, he dropped another 30 pounds. Chris Pratt also told Men's Health that he got ready for the role in Moneyball by running 5 to 6 miles a day, eating leafy green salads, having protein shakes, and cutting out all alcohol. So just like you see in that Tom Hardy workout video, and with the other guys in the workout videos, getting fit is not just about how hard you hit the gym, but it also depends on what you're consuming between those workouts. Oh, and one other thing I found out about Chris's success to getting fit for Moneyball is that he also regularly participates in, I get this, the Hip Hop the Abs class. Now in the following year of 2011, Chris Pratt stars in the role as the lovable and portly Andy Dwyer for the show Parks and Recreation. For this role, he had to become his alter ego of Chris Fat, as I like to call him. And for this role, he was encouraged to gain about 40 pounds or 18 kilos for this role, which Chris says he was more than happy to do, and it was easy. Now, one thing we have to remember is that Chris Pratt is 6 feet 2 inches tall, which means 40 pounds on a guy his size is going to show really as chubby or double chin with a very fluffy appearance around his midsection and arms. When you're taller, you can hold more weight and not look out of shape, but being tall is no excuse for being lazy. And although we know that Andy Dwyer did try to lose weight on the TV series in order to become a cop. Now, one thing I can tell you about Chris Pratt's weight gain is that while he says it was fun and easy for him to gain weight, he also mentioned that in the end, gaining all that weight might have been fun, but he had no energy at the end of the day. It was easier for him to fall into states of depression, and he lacked motivation that he had when he was fit. So, what should we learn from all this is that if you're really fat and overweight, it's not only something that might not look nice to you, but it's also going to affect your energy, it's going to affect your mood, and it's going to affect your libido. When you eat like poop, then it's going to be reflected in your life. The only way to undo that is by consistently eating right and exercising regularly. This will slowly begin to turn around those issues, and you'll find yourself, as you get leaner, that you're also going to have more energy and be more in control of your emotions, not sinking into negative emotions like depression. Now, in the year 2012, Chris Pratt had to get in shape for his role in the movie Zero Dark 30. In this movie, Chris played a Navy SEAL that was on SEAL Team 6 that took out Osama bin Laden. He had to get in shape to play the role, and in one interview, he said that he had to do long ocean swims with no wetsuits. He had to train on the Navy SEAL's official obstacle course and more to get in shape. Now, in a different interview, he said something a bit different, and I quote, "I really didn't have the proper coaching, so I was doing 500 push-ups a day, going to the gym, running 5 miles a day, and not eating. I tore my body apart," end quote. He also mentions that this had him feeling terrible, and he wore himself out to the point that he had to get shoulder surgery. The second interview sounds more realistic to me and way more honest. Chris Pratt also says one of his secrets to losing the excess weight from playing Andy Dwyer was, and I quote, "You don't have to work out super hard. Water, water, water. Pee 3 times before 10 a.m. For real, try it," end quote. Now, while this might be true to a point, I think it works best when you have a lot of weight to lose, and a certain amount of that weight to lose is water weight. But let's also take into consideration that Chris Pratt just admitted that he didn't know what he was doing during this time, and his training resulted in a shoulder injury that needed surgery. So take that advice with a grain of salt. Now remember, your training doesn't have to result in injury. If you do not know how to properly work out, you fear you might be overtraining, or you just do a lot of yoga or CrossFit, then what you'll need to do is you'll need to get a sports massage every so often to properly recover. And if you're in the New York City area, you can schedule your sports massage at www.elitehealersmassagetherapy.com and schedule your treatment today. A link is in the description. Now in the next year of 2013, he is still in the show Parks and Rec, but he also gets cast for a new movie, the role of Brett in the movie Delivery Man. Now in this movie, he goes back to his alter ego of Chris Pratt, aka Starlord, and he puts on a whopping 60 pounds for this role. This was the largest weight gain on record for his career. He says one of the secret weapons to gaining the weight was the fact that he put on weight easily because he'd fallen in love with a woman who loved to feed her man, end quote. In fact, the weight gain was so funny to him that when Pratt went to Conan for an interview, they made fun of his weight gain, going from having a washboard stomach to a round man with a double chin. They called it a before and after picture done the wrong way. Now, one thing I noticed, if any actor I've seen goes from fit to fat and back really well, it's Chris Pratt. I mean, he has even said it himself. Quote, "I just like to gain weight and lose weight. It's a roller coaster, but I want to do this." End quote. So we know that it's easy for Chris Pratt to be plenty fat. When the real story comes is when it's time to get in shape. It's easy to be fat, but to be fit, it takes discipline, strategy, and willpower to get to that end result. Now in 2014, this is a time when Chris Pratt finally gets the opportunity from Marvel to become Peter Quill, aka Starlord, for the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Now this is a point in the story that Marvel owns him in a way. And as with the rest of the actors that they own, they want him fit. So to get ready for the role, Marvel assigns him a nutritionist by the name of Phil Golgia. One of the biggest changes that Chris had to undergo for the role was he did not drink alcohol for 8 months. He said it wasn't too hard, with the exception that from time to time, he got grumpy without it. Now that wasn't the only change. Marvel also assigned Chris to a trainer by the name of Duffy Gaver. Now I was able to get a fair deal of information about Chris Pratt's workouts with Duffy, his trainer. He broke it down into sections during those 8 months. The first stage was bodybuilder style training, which lasted around 6 to 8 weeks, and then came a strength and conditioning training cycle. Then after those weeks, the third cycle that Duffy switched him in was a period of high intensity resistance training with high amounts of cardio during the week. The cardio that Chris Pratt performed was varied and included swimming, running, rowing, and biking. Also, during this time with a professional trainer to write progressions, Chris got into proper athletic shape without sustaining one injury. Personally, I believe that there's nothing worse that you can do getting injured because you did not know any better. All of Chris Pratt's resistance training took more than the average 5 weeks of Hollywood workout, but with Chris hitting his peak near 300 pounds, he needed a lot of work to take that obligatory shirtless photo that all the male superheroes in the MCU seem to have taken in one movie or a TV series or the other. So the work was done over a number of months to prepare him for the role of Starlord. 2015 was the final season of Parks and Rec, and later that year was followed by Jurassic World. So moving forward from his first appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, Chris Pratt pretty much had to stay in shape to play both Star-Lord in the MCU and Owen Grady in Jurassic World movie series. One thing I'm starting to notice that anytime a male actor gets cast into a superhero role in the MCU, they're basically made on a contract to stay in shape. You can't say that about DC, because I mean, look at like Ben Affleck as an example, Fat Man. So one thing I can certainly tell you is that with Chris Pratt set to appear in future MCU movies, with the next one being Thor: Love and Thunder in 2022, followed by Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in 2023, it seems that Chris Pratt's going to be spending many workout hours together with his trainer Duffy Gaver. So I really doubt until Star-Lord dies in the MCU that we're really going to see Chris Pratt return to his more corpulent version of Chris Fat. Hey, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to press that like button, subscribe, and click on the celebrity workout playlist that just popped up to your screen. And check out the other actors' workout histories I review. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.